Disband! Well advanced! Right! 10! Right, left, right, left, right, left. You must keep the pace going. You must use your heel as your drum. You're all musicians.
Before a young man joins a military band like this one, he'll have undergone a considerable amount of training. And even before these two lads, Christopher Thompson and Timothy Cumber, join us, I, as the director of music, would have gone to see them, probably at their homes and with their parents, and probably also in answer to an inquiring letter, or they may have seen an advertisement of ours in a musical journal. I know that you're bound to have an awful lot of questions you want to ask, and the boy in particular is a bit worried about the step he's going to take, I'm sure. We don't want to get you into the army and then find you don't like it, although, of course, you could leave. As long as you let us know early enough, you can leave soon after you've joined. But once you've taken the great step, of course, you'll be committed to do about 9 years. You do understand you would be joining the army, but as a musician, you see, and very, very rarely does actual soldiering interfere with your musical career. You will have qualified teachers, of course, when you join the army, because at the junior musicians wing at Pirbright, that's where you'd start. They have professors on each instrument.
See, you want to break there. You'd want to connect the A flat up with the F minor chord. So go back to there.
I've been playing the piano since I was about 4, and the horn, French horn, about 2 or 3 years. We had a small military band at school, which we had a very keen music master who could play more or less all the brass instruments. When he left, it deteriorated rather. But I left as well then. The first year we get, I think it's 25 shillings given to us. And you can get extra money by passing examinations or promotion. That you're not given, and that is saved up with the rest of it. And it's given to you before leave, so you have a lot of money to spend when you leave.
For these, so that you don't accent the second big chord.
So I'd like, if possible, to go to the Guildhall. No, and try and take a diploma there, if possible. And I'd like to do a lot of piano playing, because I keep up my horn for the band.
I learned to play the horn, and I gained experience in military band. And there are little things such as playing at sergeant's mess meetings with the violin, gaining experience and confidence that way. And on the whole, it's just been what I've expected.
Good. Yeah. Yes, the difficulty there with that crescendo is more tone on that D natural. Try and keep the bow a little nearer the bridge and more weight on it, you see. Bring the whole weight of your arm onto that first finger there and keep the bow nearer the bridge than you're doing.
He was educated at Highgate School, and he began learning fiddle when he was 8 years old. It started somewhere about his 12th birthday, and he said he'd like to go into the army. We had no idea. We were horrified at the time. And we were also horrified about a musical career, because of it being so hazardous one way or another.
Yeah, I think we both had misgivings at the time. The music side of it certainly appealed to us, and it seemed to fulfill everything Christopher wanted. But I think it was the army life itself which gave us a few misgivings at the time.
You try the opening.
right, the standard of playing is surprisingly high, and we encourage parents to come down to see the progress their boys are making. Thompson's father, in fact, is himself a music teacher.
I think what impressed me most of all, having been in the teaching world, is the fact that these young lads are there for 2 years, if they're right. And most of those boys, in fact, had only been there for 6 months or so. Their discipline was tremendous, and their playing was exciting and enthusiastic. There's polish, of course, to be got, but that will be got later. But by and large, they're in tune.
I'm a retired Lieutenant Colonel, re-employed, known as an RO3. I'm known as the Director of Music, Guards Depot, but my prime function is the training of the junior musicians for all the bands of the Household Brigade.
Right, come on, Meeks, lead him out. Come on, bring him on. Poor old devil's half asleep. Come on, make him walk on. Right, now up you get.
This covers all activities associated with making music, including, of course, in some cases, learning how to ride. Some of our boys have to play on horseback, don't forget.
This is not tight enough. You must get it tightened up next time and give the horse a sore back. You do this up?
Yes.
You did. Well, it's not tight enough and it's too loose.
This training is supervised by Corporal of Horse Wright, who pays meticulous attention to the smallest detail.
You've got dirty hops as well. Right, Meeks. Royal salute. Sound up.
Most boys coming here can play something if it's only a recorder. They have some inherent sort of spark of music in them. A number of boys come here with a fair knowledge of one instrument, either a wind or a string. I should have told you perhaps early on that we teach not only the one instrument here, but two. Boys go from here as double-handed musicians. Well, we've had 4 boys just recently who passed at O-level in music, and there's at least 2 of them that I think could go on to A-level in due course. We do also encourage them to take the associated board examinations, both practical and theoretical.
What about their general education, Colonel? Do they continue that?
Well, the schoolmaster has his pound of flesh here, I can assure you. About 9 periods a week are, in fact, taken over by the education authorities. They're released from that when they attain their senior certificate of education. Once they gain that, they're released, or, which suits me sometimes much better, when the schoolmaster gives them up as a bad job. Then I know they'll do much more music.
When we first came, we had to take education tests, and associated with this education was PT tests and a shooting test. So we had to shoot a rifle, but that is the only time I've touched a rifle here. Otherwise, we do drill once a week.
Left, right, left, right, left, right, left. By the right. Right! Left, right, left. Now dressing by the left. Your dressing has gone all to pieces again.
Sometimes it's all right, and sometimes it's not.
Policeman's truncheon or a shillelagh, you see. Try and get a little bit of artistic movement into the wrist and not so stiff here. Get the right arm well forward. Remember that this is the metronome and sets the pace and maintains it, and use your left hand for bringing in the various instruments and also for indicating crescendos. Just hold the baton out now. Almost as though there was a point of balance there, see. Turn your wrist over a little. That's better. Well up. Look up, too. You're in charge, don't forget. Right, same spot again, dears. Well, now, boys, we're very lucky this afternoon. We have someone who's visiting these parts, who's a very well-known figure in the musical world. He's a very fine and talented horn player who has had, in fact, a background of military music. I refer to Mr. Alan Civil, and here he comes.
Okay. Well, firstly, boys, I'd like to say it's jolly nice to be here. I feel rather out of place being a gunner amongst so many guardsmen. I think one can honestly say that army musicians develop a fantastic sight-reading ability over their years in the bands, and this is a tremendous importance when you go into the British orchestra or any bands, to be able to sight read quickly, because you just don't have the time to learn the music. At the moment, I teach at the Royal College of Music. There's lots of horn players come there, and there's something they all seem to lack, and it's just purely stamina. They just collapse after the first few minutes. I'm not saying that they should all go into the army to improve this, but it certainly helped me. You grow up learning all types of music and taking part in all types of music, and this is another great thing. It's no good being a Stravinsky expert or even a Sullivan expert. You've got to be really a jack of all trades and know a little bit about all sorts of music and not decry any sort of music. I mean, there's nothing better than I've heard you just play a Sullivan overture, which is absolutely marvellous music. And there are a lot of people in the music profession who say, oh, Sullivan, oh yes, Gilpin and Sullivan, Doyleycott, oh yes, well, I'd rather have something else. But those sort of people, well, you don't want to know those people in the long run.
See, before I finish this job, a boy at Kneller Hall to become training for a bandmaster, as a student bandmaster. And I would love to live long enough to see him become a director of music, but time is passing by, and it may not last as long as all that. I may not last as long as all that. The Royal Military School of Music is at Kneller Hall in Twickenham, and this is where nearly all army musicians are sent to continue their studies. At the moment, the director of music there is Lieutenant Colonel Basil Brown, the senior director of music in the British Army.
We take on two courses, pupils and students. First of all, of course, a young man joins the army. His parents wanted to come. He probably is a musician. These are the best youngsters to get. who are musicians before they come in the army. But it's not absolutely necessary that they are musicians already. The army trains us if they have the aptitude. After training at the junior training establishments, Burbright is one, Woolwich for the gunners another, Bovington for the RAC, and many others spread around the country. After a period of training as youngsters, which they trained on the square, and the rudiments of music, the rudiments of instruments, both wind and string, they then are selected to come to Nettle Hall. It's purely voluntary, they don't have to come. But let's assume that a young man comes here at the age of 17 and a half. At 18 and a half, he's finished the course here. He will go back to his regiment. He then will be recommended at 25 years of age. Now, he could be called in any time on a student's course between 25 and 30. 3-year course is the bandmaster course, so that would mean about 33, we'll assume, that he goes out as a bandmaster. 5 years later, he can pass the PSM examination. That makes it, I think, 38. He could be selected for director of music any time after that. The average age is about 40.
The only thing that really interferes is you do the concert jobs and you do military band marching. And of course, on the marching bands, you have to blow out loud, and it tends to put your lip off a bit, and you lose your embouchure. So in concert bands, you don't play so well, as you would like to.
Years ago, we used to have the odd young man from overseas, but since the war and since the independence of all these countries, of which we used to provide the bandmasters and directors from the British Army, but now they want their own. And since the war, we've been training bandmasters and indeed pupils for these overseas countries. Go through the same course as a British student. Some of them do remarkably well, the West Indies in particular. I've been in the army a long time, and I'm in my 46th year, and I enlisted as a band boy at the age of 14. These days, they're enlisted at 50. When you come in, you're trained, first of all, to be a good soldier. This means discipline as well as being able to march and do everything. You can't be a good military musician without you are a good soldier as well. And this is very important. This we take into consideration when we're selecting our bandmasters. These days, there are all the regiments, the different corps of the Army, the RASC, REME, Royal Signals, the Royal Tank Regiment have 3, the Royal Artillery have 3, the Sappers have 2. There are about 3 or more, three times the number of directors these days.
The man who joins the army must be a musician first. He must be keen on music. It must be his life. And a soldier afterwards, but he must want to soldier too, because it is a certain environment which may be very different from the outside world. Your musical soldier, if I can use that phrase, he must be entirely different, or very considerably different from a chap in a line regiment, but he has one thing the same. He wants to soldier, and he likes the sides of soldiering, which he has just as much as the infantryman. I don't think the discipline irks people much any more than, say, the discipline in a good symphony orchestra. I'm absolutely certain the London Symphony Orchestra have their disciplines just as much, if not more, than we have. As far as I'm personally concerned, I'm, as it were, the headmaster of this school, and it is run, as any other military school is concerned, under the aegis of the Ministry of Defence, and as far as bills for actual work or payment of professors of music, it isn't in my hands. I don't have to concern myself with that.
Can you get your crotchets a little more space, a little more precise? They're too long at the moment to fit the character of the tune. 1, 2. That's much better.
When they come, they're then trained in the rudiments of music, the rudiments of harmony, oral training, and instrumentation, both the military band, brass band, and orchestra. But their main thing is being trained on their instruments.
It's just a little bit awkward at the moment. Can you clip it in again? Pa-pia-pa-pa. 1, 2. That's it.
We have civilian instructors on all woodwind, brass, and percussion. They're all members of big symphony orchestras in London. And of course we have people like Jack McIntosh's famous brass band.
1, 2, 1. I'll give it the full bar. 1, 2, 1. Good, good. All right?
The education is carried on at the school to get their education certificates, mostly these days, because it's O-level, which we're trained in.
With the emphasis on music in schools, in secondary schools particularly, county education authorities, they apply to me every other day. I get a sheaf of mail saying, can you produce a teacher of the clarinet or a teacher of the trombone? And that is a gift for a bandmaster on his retirement, or indeed some leave before their actual time of retirement to do that.
Practical side, conducting and things like that, they come under me, and during that period also they have to pass every instrument in the band. decided they'd like another lady director of the Women's Royal Army Corps. We were approached, and they said it's possible, and we said yes, certainly would be. The selection was made by the Women's Royal Army Corps, and this young lady was sent here. Of course, it was rather dubious in many ways. Here was a school of 280 men and one young girl coming here. We all looked forward to it very much, but I think that she, and I've seen her from the very beginning, she found it very awkward at first. She's passed every examination that a male student has to do, so I would say that within 2 months she will be the second director of music of the Women's Royal Army Corps. We're very sorry she's finished her course. It's been like a ray of sunshine in this place, I can assure you.
Dreadful at first. They used to tease me, but I got used to it, and I can give them as good as they give me now. But they don't take any notice of it now. In fact, it's strange that people say to me, "Oh, you're the only lady here." I sometimes forget, because they don't take any notice of it at all. University to do music, and I had a friend there that said that you don't get so much practical music, it's mainly theory, and at the time I wasn't interested in the theory. So my music mistress, my private music mistress, saw the advert for the band in the Musical Times and said, why not go and join the band and learn an instrument there and then think about it in 3 or 4 years' time, which is what I did. I'm going to the Women's Royal Army Corps College as an officer cadet, and I shall be there for 4 months. And then after that, I get a commission to be the director of music of the Women's Royal Army Corps Band. It's 25, nearly 26.
Conservative lot, because a military band doesn't only, in most people's mind, mean a lot of soldiers playing instruments. It means a certain type of music even. And we are apt to play the traditional music associated with a band on a bandstand such as Eastbourne or Bournemouth or somewhere like that. But we do try to keep up to date with, say, about 20% of our music, but we find the public won't let us stay too much up to date or get too much up to date. They want the old favorites that military bands traditionally play, musical comedy, marches and so on.
through this course, and at the end, they can, if they've really taken in everything that's put at them, they can win valuable prizes, both at theory and instrumentally. The Adjutant's Prize for the best church service, silver plaque and cheque for £5, student bandmaster Tomlinson. Student gaining the highest marks in the Ministry of Defence examination, student bandmaster Tomlinson. The Loder Prize for elocution, student bandmaster Tomlinson. Winner of the Worshipful Company of Musicians Medal, ladies and gentlemen, student bandmaster Tomlinson.
I went to the Duke of York's Law Military School when I was 11, and it's a military school for the sons of soldiers, either who were killed during the war or have done a lot of service. And the main part of the school activities was, at that time, was very sort of military. And consequently they had a band, and a lot of things revolved around the band. And new boys who joined at that time were encouraged to go into the band. Those who proved to be not very much of a musician didn't go any further. They just faded away after 2 or 3 weeks. But of course I went into the band and found I liked it, and I've led bands ever since. Well, of course, one becomes a bandmaster, first of all, and personally, I like the army. I would like to stay in the army, and eventually, I hope to become a director of music. This is how I see it at the moment, anyway. Things may change.
Which means that you could attain what rank?
Well, the highest rank you can attain as a director of music is Lieutenant Colonel.
Ladies and gentlemen, that ends prize giving. I will now hand over to Sir John Dykes-Bauer.
After 31 years as organist for St. Paul's Cathedral, I've had the thrilling experience of playing the organ on a great many occasions with trumpeters from Kneller Hall, on many state occasions and on many other occasions, both festive and solemn. And that experience is one that I've never forgotten and will always remember all my life.
Military music has changed a lot since the days of sackbuts, serpents and ophicleides, when the band consisted of just a few soldiers conducted by a hired civilian. But in Scotland, of course, military music still means one thing: the pipes.
The military band, they're there purely to produce music, whereas the piper has got to produce his music and also assist in his battalion role. It's an instrument that requires a lot of practice, and one has got to have a very good memory, because we never carry a score sheet with us. And lots of people think we just play by ear, but look, we have masses of the stuff, and it's all got to be done memorised. This afternoon we are going to learn certain pibroch notes, and I'm going to show you how they're done first, and then I would like you to follow. I started at my father's knee, as it were, when I was 6 or 7, and I'm now beginning my 33rd year in the army. Well, he may have a home environment, in other words, his father or a brother may be a piper, or he might be brought up in a pipe band world, so that he gets a pipe band interest as far as that is concerned. He wouldn't get in until he's 15 at least. That's the earliest that we would take him in, and then he would go to the junior soldiers wing at one of our depots and be taught to play the pipes there. Corporal Robertson here. Yes, that's fine. I wonder, Hume, would you like to do it for me now? The school here is basically for potential pipe majors, although we do run a lower level course, and they can come as many times as they like on that lower level course. But for his potential pipe majors course, I wouldn't like to see him before he's been about 8 or 9 years in the army. So you must practice it in this manner. Yes. Well, I think you should all just go ahead and practice that, and then once you've got it going, I'll listen to it again. We have a great esprit de corps in the Scottish regiments particularly, and I think that the tremendous traditions that have been built up helps so much to be the honey that's attracting the young men into it. 90% of their time is playing the bagpipes, but they are on the battalion establishment as soldiers, and they are required to do, shall we say, the other 10% of soldiering when it's required, and they've got to be up to a high degree of efficiency when this is turned on for them. An army musician is nothing if not versatile, and he'd have to play in church 1 minute, and then on parade the next, and then at a troops concert, and then as a Guards musician in Buckingham Palace perhaps, and have a very good opportunity of playing all his instruments. A military band's original purpose was not to keep the troops in step. It was to enliven the spirits of the troops. And you may remember, if you're old enough, are you, that in 1940, Churchill found that when he wanted the troops entertained and the public morale raised, he had no bands. They were all either killed or prisoners of war in Germany, as I was. And so his first order was reform the bands. We must have music, and the troops' spirits must be enlivened. And this is, of course, is the original purpose of a military band. So when you ask, are military bands, have they still a use? I would say Most definitely, yes. And I think the people that would tell you yes are the soldiers themselves. If I were to say that we like to attract a fine musician, I'd probably be wrong. We probably wouldn't be able to keep him long enough, for as soon as he'd join the army, he'd leave it and go and play with a civilian orchestra. What we're looking for is a boy with good potential as a musician, whom we can train and is likely to stay with us, like Timothy Cumber here, whose ambition is to be a bandmaster and, who knows, a director of music. After duty, there's nothing to stop them taking outside engagements. The first away after a parade are usually those with such an engagement. It supplements their income, but their income isn't at all bad as it is. It starts around £12 a week when they're trained, but can rise to nearly £30 a week. Our timpanist quite often finds himself filling in at, say, the festival hall in a work like Bartók's Concerto for Orchestra, but army duties come first. For example, a Lord Mayor's reception at the Guildhall. It's all a widening of their experience if they can also be allowed and given the opportunity to play a stringed instrument, so that most bands try to run a small salon orchestra, even if it's only half a dozen. He can start as a young band boy and become director of music in the army, and the whole gamut of music is covered in that training. And the type of boy we want is, as I think I've said before, a boy not too sensitive, because he's also a soldier, don't forget. He is at the same time a soldier, but a boy with great drive, interest, and some musical skill will help quite a bit. The duties which a musician will be expected to undertake are almost too numerous to mention. There are state occasions, weddings, state funerals, the Remembrance Day ceremony at the Cenotaph,